So we begin with a reflection on memory, connection, and the importance of special moments. Bread and Benedictions by Lawrence Levine. In my mother's house, she baked breads swollen with breaths of yeast, and she lit candles, saying benedictions through lips that flickered like the light she blessed, saying sounds that talked in steps, sewn like stitches in a cloth. She gave me her needle, whose swift, slender shaft went straight to my heart, where it has lodged all these years, like a restive splinter, waiting for the flicker of the ancient lights to flash again above the benedictions told over bread in dreams of innocence. And now to light our Shabbat candles, which symbolize both the light of inspiration we find from each other and the warmth of community that we connect to together, we have our candle lighting song, Baruch HaOr, Let Us Light These Lights. And I'd like to invite our onikos tonight, Lynn and Elliot Miller, to come forward as we sing or hear Baruch HaOr. So I'll sing the blessing in Hebrew, and then we'll say the English together. Savri Maranan Rabbanan De Etmo, Kidashnu Et Hayayin. Savri Maranan Rabbanan De Hayom, Baruchim Borei Pri Hagafen. Hashabat Mesamcheinu, Hashabat Merapenu, Legufotenu, Lenafshotenu. Hashabat Meashrenu. Baruchim Hashamrim et Yom HaShabbat. In English together. The rabbis and sages of old proclaimed, we sanctify this wine. The rabbis and sages of today proclaim, blessed is the fruit of the vine. Shabbat makes us joyful. Shabbat heals us in body and in spirit. Shabbat enriches us. Blessed are those who keep the Shabbat. L'chaim, l'chaim, to life. And now an adapted version of the traditional Shalom Aleichem, a Friday evening song. In our case, our version of Shalom Aleichem praises not angels that guard us walking home, but rather the people who pursue peace, who guard peace, and who love peace.
Shalom.
In a humanistic congregation, we sometimes are creative in Jewish life and write brand new things, new ideas, new meditations, new poetry and songs. At other times, we adopt from tradition and maintain things as they have been passed down for generations. And in a third category, sometimes we adapt things from tradition. We take something that has interesting echoes, has ideas that we value, and yet needs a new framing to work comfortably in a humanistic setting. One example is an approach to the Shema, which literally means listen. Of course, to what and to whom one listens, that may change over time and with perspectives. And so this evening, I'll read the passage from Marcia Falk, which is an adapted version from the traditional text of the Shema. With all our heart and all our spirit, all our senses and strength, we take upon ourselves and into ourselves these promises: to care for the earth and those who live upon it, to pursue justice and peace, to love kindness and compassion. We will teach this to our children through the passage of the day, as we dwell in our homes and as we go on our journeys from the time we rise until we fall asleep. And may our actions be faithful to our words, that our children's children may live to know truth and kindness have embraced, peace and justice have kissed, and are one. And so appropriately, a song that celebrates the power of people being together and the value of people connecting to each other, Hine Matov. At this time, if you're comfortable standing, could I ask you to stand for just a moment? In our congregation, when we gather on Shabbat and at holiday celebrations, don't worry, you can stay seated. When we gather at holiday celebrations and on Shabbat, we always create a space for memory and reflection, to feel the love of those who have left us, to remember the love they gave us, and to connect to the past in that deep and meaningful way. Once each month, we share the names whose yahrzeit or anniversary of their death occurs in this time of year. And so tonight we remember with great love Sidney Allenberg, Lena Bernstein, David Bolnick, Bernard Brook, Joe Collins, Tamara Dworsky, Pauline Fleischer, Israel Friedman, Earl Gasquion, Dusica Gavrilovich, Sam Gilbert, Olive Gleave, Oleg Goldenstein, Michael Klea, Shirley Layson, Regina Mayer, Mary McCune, Jean Merkin, Beth Rabin Music, Jeannie Parker, Matthew Passon, Margaret Pollock, Bess Richter, Sandy Saracen, Robert Schoenbrod, Ben Sosowitz, James Vanderbeck, Esther Wagner, and Mary Yellen. If there are any other names that those here this evening, either in person or online, would like to remember, I invite you to please speak their names out loud at this time. Let us pause then for a moment of silent tribute to their memories and in memory of all of our loved ones. In Jewish life, we say, Zecher Tzadikim Livracha. The memory of good people is a blessing to us. Please be seated. And now we hear a song of loving memory. Well, we have a lot of interesting events coming up in the congregation, and David Hirsch is not able to be here tonight, so I get to pretend to be David Hirsch and give you the announcements of upcoming events. This Sunday, we have a family education program called Doing Good, Family and Community. It's an opportunity to learn about tzedakah, about community service, and about doing good in the world. I do have a homework assignment if anyone is planning to come either to the progressive dinner tomorrow or to Sunday school on Sunday morning to drop off a student. We are trying to do an activity we're calling Change for Change. What that means is we're having people bring in, remember coins and used cash, quarters, nickels, dimes, and so on? The goal is to collect as much change as we can and to have the kids sorted and counted, but then they'll have the chance to choose where to allocate it to a variety of different charitable causes. And part of the goal is for them to learn about the need to prioritize and make choices and what it means to be a small-scale philanthropist rather than just a big one. So if you do have some change sitting around in your cup holders, under the couch cushions, or in a bag or a jar somewhere, and you're willing to contribute to our Change for Change program, please bring it to the progressive dinner tomorrow night if you're coming to that, or to Sunday morning. You can drop it off at 9:30 at Deerfield High School, and we'll add it to the pile for them to work through and allocate. So thank you for your help with Change for Change. We have our women's group meeting to play canasta on Monday at 11:45 a.m. You can contact the women's group at we@kolhadash.com, which stands for Women Exploring, or Joyce Hirsch. Our adult education continues on Tuesday evenings. We're exploring Jewish history. Next Tuesday, we'll talk about Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, and his biography, because believe it or not, there's a history to God too. Our next Shabbat service, a week from tonight, is Zoom only, so don't come here in person. It's called What Comes Next? Rebuilding in Jewish History. And it might have some particular resonance for some people looking at the results of the election recently, that maybe rebuilding will be something in our near future. Our women's online chat is meeting on Wednesday, December 4th at 7:30 p.m. Judy Rosenzweig is your contact for that. We do have a Shabbat service the first Friday in December as well at 7:30 p.m. It's based on the Netflix series Nobody Wants This, about intermarriage in the 21st century. It got some good reviews, some negative reviews. It raises some challenging issues. It'll be an interesting conversation. If you've seen it or heard about it, it should be a fun discussion. We do also have an adult tot program for the youngest participants, ages 3 to 6 and an adult. It's a make and take your own Hanukkah menorah and handmade card. I'll give it away. If you have hands like this on a card or on a piece of paper, guess how many lights? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and a shamus in the middle. So it works really well for a Halloween holiday card, and it's super cute with the little tiny hands. Our Community Alternatives Hanukkah gift collection is taking place on Friday the 13th at our Shabbat service, or on Sunday the 15th at Sunday school. And finally, our last in-person Shabbat of the year will be on Friday, December 13th, called How to Turn the Page, moving on from one year, getting ready for the next. And one last event, the last Shabbat of our year, will be an online-only Zoom Shabbat on December 20th. We have a guest speaker, Jenny Stein from the group Sharsheret, which is involved in breast cancer and ovarian cancer education, advocacy, and support. She'll be talking about the importance of addressing these cancers head-on and having the courage to ask questions and to explore what could be to prevent what might turn out. And so again, a good educational, informational, and community building experience. Any other announcements or events or upcoming programs at the congregation, you can always go to our website, you can get our weekly email, you can look at our calendar online, or you can always contact our office, info@kolhadash.com or rabbi@kolhadash.com, and we'll be happy to connect you with a group, an activity, or an upcoming program. Well, with that said, to my left is our congregational menorah, and it's 7 lights of the classical menorah design, not the Chanukiah style. This 7-light menorah represents the different strands of our lives that come together. Just as many strands come together to create a wick in a candle, so do many strands of our lives come together to bring us the connection of community. These are a chance to light a candle of simcha, of joys, a candle of surus, of difficulty and pain. Could be a candle of concern for someone who's facing an illness or a difficult time in their life. Could be a candle of celebration for something wonderful in your life or the lives of people that you care about. But this is my time to step back and to open it up to you. If you'd like to come up and light a candle, please do speak into the microphone so the people online can hear you and be able to connect. Oh, let me just make sure it's not pointed at the speaker. Works a little better that way. And also, if anyone online would like to share, you can certainly type into the chat and I'll see it there, or you can simply unmute yourself and I'll be happy to light a candle on your behalf. And so with this, I stop and I create space for you and for you online if you'd like to have me light a candle. Rick, please.
This way?
Doesn't matter. It's not Hanukkah.
Maybe I'll try the other way.
You got it.
There you go. There are 2 names that were mentioned today. My niece, Beth Rabin Music, was 36 when she passed away, which is really very, very sad, but we remember her. And the other one was my father, David Balnick, and he had multiple heart attacks. And each time we thought we were going to lose him. And one year we were told we would lose him. So I went down to Florida where he was at, and I was all prepared to tell him what I needed to say before he died. And when I got down there, I was told he's not going to die. And I was all ready to tell him what I needed to say. So I told him anyways, which was really very important for me. A couple of years after that, he did pass away. There were 3 things about him that I wanted to say that were positive. I don't know why things come in 3s. He clearly loved my mother. I knew that. Second thing was he avoided conflict. He got along with everybody. And the third thing was he really would have loved the progressive dinner. He loved people. So when I think of those things, I think of him.
Quick. This is in honor of my oldest son, whose birthday is tomorrow. He'll be 26, living in a safe state of California. So he's okay.
My name is Lynn Miller, and I'm going to light this candle for my mom who died. It's her yahrzeit. I don't believe that time goes so fast. And she's dead 20 years. And she was a teacher in the Chicago public schools for 30 some years. She was an Anna. She loved my children, Jacqueline and Jamie. So she would be so excited with our grandchildren.
Adam?
Kathy, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. If you could light a candle for me, I'd appreciate it. And this is for my father, Bob Schoenbrod, who died. He was a World War II vet, and he died 50 years ago this Veterans Day. And I could probably share all kinds of things, but instead I'm just going to say that he is still with me.
Got it.
One of the names, I didn't get it.
Oh, ye of little faith.
One of the names you heard Adam read tonight was Tamara Dworsky. Tammy Dworsky was my first wife. I don't know if anybody here knew her. We were members of Beth Orr together. Next week will be the 20th anniversary of her death. She succumbed after a bunch of years fighting juvenile diabetes and multiple sclerosis. And the thing we remember most about her is over all these years, she defended the point that she will not let her diseases define her. And that is one hell of a memory. Thank you.
I see Ron and Tamar.
So I wanted to light a candle for my friend Heidi. It was a year ago. She died too young, and I miss her. She was a wonderful human being, and I miss talking to her. She should still be with us.
Thank you.
I just wanted to light that for two names that were also read tonight. My uncle, Michael Clea, we called him Bo, who passed away 2 years ago after a battle with cancer. And my cousin, his daughter, Sydney Allenberg, who passed away a year ago. Very suddenly, she had, gone through a lot in her life. She had MS, and she had just finished her radiology tech exam. So just wanted to remember them.
Yes, right, go ahead. We can keep going without candles, it's okay. You don't have to light it now.
I'd like to write a candle for Happy's mother. It was announced today. That's all.
Okay. All right. Thank you all those who shared. I also want to recognize those joys that were not shared and those concerns that may be too deep to share. Tonight we're going to explore what it means to be human. Let me ask two sides of what seem to be opposites. First is, what does it mean if someone uses their head to make a decision? What do you think of? What word association comes to mind if someone uses their head to make a decision? You can just say it out loud. What? They're using rational thought, okay. Logic. They thought about it ahead of time, some advanced consideration, right? Cold. Maybe it's cold. Unemotional, right? Based on knowledge, okay. Anyone online, of course, is also welcome to jump in or type in the chat. We'll certainly include your thoughts. Maybe intelligence is part of using your head. Maybe it's a calm decision, right? It's not something that's taken in the heat of the moment. Maybe you have evidence as a basis for this choice. It's analytical. Okay. Now, the other side of that coin is, what does it mean if someone follows their heart to make a decision? What words would you connect with following your heart to make a decision? Emotional, right? Rash, maybe? Using intuition, okay. Using their feelings or following their feelings. Caring, perhaps? Elliot, what'd you say? I'm sorry? Oh, I'm sorry. Empathy, using empathy, all right.
Authentic.
Maybe authentic, if they're following their heart. Maybe impulsive, maybe. Maybe reactive. Would you say bad decision? You could say that for following your head too, right? Now, of course, the key point here is which way of deciding, following your head or following your heart, which one is a better example of what it means to be human? The answer is both, exactly. They're both quintessentially human, following our head and following our heart. So there's no one approach to humanity that perfectly defines who we are, what makes us distinct. Now, we like to think of human beings as being distinct from the animals. You know, if you describe uncivilized behavior, you say, that guy's an animal. Right? That's not a positive trait generally, unless you're in football or wrestling or something. But generally, you don't want that applied to you. The law of the jungle is not a good thing. If you read the first story in Jewish mythology, the creation story in Genesis, the birds of the air, the animals of the sea, the fish and aquatic creatures, those are created on day 5. On day 6 in the morning, land animals are, actually it's in the evening because it's evening and morning, but in the first part of the day, the land animals are made, and God says, and it was good. And then entirely separately, after all the animals are done, that's when it says that human beings were made in the image of God, and then God says, and it was very good. Human beings are the only ones that get the very good, but they're seen as made entirely separately from the creatures. This is reflected also in Genesis chapter 2, which is a kind of retelling or a different version of the creation story, where human beings are made from the dust of the ground. And the breath of life is breathed into their nostrils. Actually, technically into the man's nostrils, and then the woman is derivative later in that version of the story. And then the animals actually come after the people. It's one of the clues that there's probably two different creation stories, because the first one has animals then people, and the second one has people then animals. But in either case, they're seen as very, very different, not connected to each other. Of course, we know that human beings are animals in many ways. They're like animals. So what are just some of the examples of similarities between human beings and all the other animals, or many of the other animals in the world? What are some of the features that we have in common? We have family, right? We have instincts. There's relationships, both, in lived experience, but also genetics and that idea of inheritance. Community, right? You've got different kinds of community, from ants to elephants. Other features? We have physical symmetry. We have emotions, right? Even just physically, we have symmetry, right? Bilateral symmetry, as many other creatures do. We have senses. We're mammals, so we are warm-blooded. We give birth to live young. We nurse them. There's a period of infancy where they require direct care. We have digestive tracts. I mean, there's all kinds of features that we have in similar. We have tribal behavior. We could call it pack behavior, but we usually use the word pack behavior for animals, and maybe tribal or ethnocentric or cultural behavior for human beings, but it's still that group identity. Right? All of these are features we find in the, quote, animal kingdom. But there are some features of humanity that do make us different from other animal species. So what are some of the examples of aspects of the human experience that do differentiate us from other animals? Religion, okay, that's true. We assume, maybe there are dolphin priests and we just don't know, but as far as we know. What? Or lack of religion, right? Stories, right? Imagination, narratives. Again, there could be a chimpanzee Shakespeare and we just don't know it, but odds are that's something unique to us. Having a sense of time, also a sense of, I call it like existentialism, like we know we're going to die, and there are some creatures that do know we're going to die, but I think the obsession that we have with the fear of death, the risk of death, the aftermath of death, mourning, and we do a lot with that sense of limited time on the earth. Love, right. Well, I don't know. There is pair bonding in some other species that bond in a certain way. One thing that is unique, though, is adoption. There are very few other animals that willingly will adopt someone they're not genetically connected to. And they found that, for example, when a new male lion takes over a pride, he kills all the cubs that were pre-existing because he has no genetic stake in helping them to survive. And alas, we found that there's a much higher incidence of domestic abuse from adoptive parents to children, or from foster parents to children when they're not, step parents are more of a risk than biological parents, sadly. But the flip side of that is we do adopt, and we do give our love to beings that we have no genetic stake in. That's something, we have pets. I don't know of other animals that have pets. Maybe there are, but I don't think so. And do you know how much money we spend every year on our pets, and how much time and energy and emotion we spend on those pets? Well, that's something different. We have infancy like other animals, but our infancy is long. It can be 25 years, depending on the person. What else? Education. Education, culture, technology, accumulated wisdom, right? There is transmission of wisdom in some other species. Chimpanzees who've learned to use a stick to get the grub out of the hole can teach other chimpanzees how to use the stick to get the grub out of the hole. But that's not on the order of our technology, our culture, our education. In fact, one of the benefits of our long infancy, our long childhood, we'll call it, is that we have the time to add that information to our store of knowledge. One of the fascinating conceits in the Clan of the Cave Bear series, which imagines the interactions between Homo sapiens and Homo neanderthalis, was this speculation that the Neanderthal had deep, almost genetic memories. And the way that they got through life was they simply remembered from the past as much as they could, and they just had to recall what they already knew. Where the leap forward for Cro-Magnon, or early humans, was that their brain could learn. Didn't have to store all the information, could learn and add to it, and that was their quantum leap advantage. But certainly culture, learning, knowledge, education, definitely unique to us. Others? I've got a couple more. Sense of killing? Oh, senseless killing. Yes. We kill our own species more than any other species kills their own species. Absolutely. We also have radically transformed our environment and the conditions of life more so than any other creature. Just the invention of agriculture. Think of what that did to transform our lives, sometimes for the worse, sometimes for the better. The use of medicine for us to cure diseases. Our longevity is radically different than it was in the state of nature. We've also, for the good and the bad, radically transformed the environment too. You know, I mean, buffalo going through a field would definitely cause an impact, but not on the way that we going through fields and the oceans and everything else that we've done have radically transformed the environment in which we live. And one last thing, we've taken a step beyond nature. You see these? Without this, I would have been run over by something a long time ago. I've defeated natural selection. I got vaccines, despite what some might think. I've gotten vaccines that have kept me alive. I've had medical intervention. I've had good nutrition. I've had housing. I've had all these advantages to defeat what was the, quote, natural design, that we would live a life that was nasty, brutish, and short. We don't have to do that anymore. We've gone beyond evolution to some extent, because what was selected against is no longer, because of the power of our minds and our application of our minds to make life better. You see, the evolutionary advantage that made us the apex predators of the world, which we are, is our brain. It enables us to cooperate. There's a fascinating insight that a primatologist mentioned. He said, you'll never see two chimpanzees cooperating to carry a log. They just don't have the coordination and language and skill to do that. But we cooperate on the scale of dozens and hundreds and thousands, even millions of people, all pulling their oars more or less in the same direction. That's unique, and the only reason that happens is because of language and because of cooperation, technology. We have deep insight into how the world works, and we can understand the process of nature and of how to build and improve things. We can do planning. We observe how the seasons change and the animals migrate, and we can predict where they need to go, even in that hunter-gatherer phase. And we can also speculate on cause and effect. If I do this, what happens next? If I do it differently, how does it come out differently? We even have something called a theory of mind. Many animals lack this. It's thinking about what someone else is thinking. So if you need to hide it from them, you need to hide it from what they're seeing, not from what you're seeing. It's recognizing yourself in the mirror and not thinking it's another one of your species. That's a kind of learning that is a tremendous advantage in the world. And the last skill we have, I want to bring to bear here, is that we can deduce agency behind things. If there are leaves rustling, it may not be just the wind. It might be that jaguar waiting to strike. Now, the challenge with our big brains is that if you combine all of these features of the theory of mind and cause and effect and agency, you might wind up with something called religion. Because you see the wind blow, you see the lightning strike, and you think, well, there must be something behind it, and there must be a cause for that, and it has an effect, and maybe there's an agent that's making it happen. Maybe those features that were really advantageous separately together create something that could be a plus, could be a minus. When we think about that brain, that wonderful, marvelous, and challenging brain that sets us apart from the other creatures, we think that there's a distinction between our body and our mind. The body is physical, animal, instinct, organs and hormones. But the mind, that's intangible. That's something uniquely human. Think about that description in Genesis, that people are made in the image of God. Does it mean they're as big as a God? No. It means they have a mind. It means they can think. Remember what brings them to life in Genesis chapter 2? It's the breath of life. It's something intangible. In Hebrew, the word for spirit is either ruach, which is the same word as wind, or neshama, which is the same word as breath. Linshom is to breathe. And you can think of, there's something ineffable about the human being that gives them life. It's not just oxygen. It's the spirit. It's the soul. It's something that comes in from beyond. And in Genesis chapter 3, when human beings are tempted to eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, they're tempted in part because the snake says, and then God fears, if they eat from this tree, they will become like gods, knowing good from evil. It's their mind. Their bodies will be the same. In fact, they'll be subject to death. It'll be something new. But their mind will be different. Now, today we know that the mind-body distinction is really artificial. Maybe we can think of some examples. When does the body affect the mind? What are some times or experiences or moments where your body affects your mind? If you're sick, right? You might feel loopy or fatigue, right? I'm sorry? If you're hungry, right? You could get irritable for all kinds of reasons. It affects your mood. It affects your rational evaluation of things.
If you don't sleep.
Right. Hallucination and lack of REM sleep has a big impact. If you exercise, you get endorphins and you might feel better about yourself. Physical pain can affect your decision making. Consuming substances changes how your brain works. And I have to say, sex changes how we think all the time. Either desire or result. Now, what are some examples where the mind affects the body? Depression, right? Lack of energy. Where do you carry your stress? Some people have sore necks, some people have backs, some people have legs, some people have headaches, right? These are body effects of things happening in the mind. Meditation. Oh, your hair? What do you mean? Oh, your head. Well, of course, if your mind is running a mile a minute, you'll feel it in a physical sense. Certainly meditation can lower blood pressure, reduce stress and fatigue. Of course, your mind can affect your health. Positive outcomes can come from positive attitudes. And of course, again, sex as a physical manifestation can be affected by mental factors as well. We know that too. You see, the mind, at its essence, as far as we know, is a series of electrical signals between brain neurons. That's who we are, that's personality, that's emotion, that's memory, it's all there. So our mind is our body. Our body is our mind. There isn't really a line between the two. It's an integrated reality of human systems. I think of the display at the Museum of Science and Industry where they've taken out all the different systems of human beings, and so you've got the nervous system, and you've got the skeletal system, and you've got the muscular system, and you've got the digestive system, as if they could exist separately or function without each other, and they just don't. We're always integrated together. It's all in one package. But the key questions that many religions have asked, is that all? Is that all there is? The nerves and the bones and the guts and the meat? Is the material, is those electrical signals, is that all there is to being human? Or is there something else? Mind. Would you call it a mind? Maybe. Well, would you call it a spirit? Would you call it a soul? Well, the hard-headed scientists might do that analysis and say, well, if you combine a big brain and you combine imagination and agency and cause and effect and all those factors, you come up with a religion. It's a concept called a spandrel. It comes from architecture, actually. If you're building a staircase, you accidentally create a space under the staircase. You can make it into a closet or something else. It wasn't by design. It just comes about as a result of the stairs. And so maybe the religious impulse, the agency combined with imagination and causation and all that, that produces religion as a spandrel. It's an accidental result of all these other features. Maybe so. Maybe it comes from a psychological need to address the fear of death, a desire for more life, the desire that this life not be all there is, our emotional attachment to other people that does not want to say goodbye, our feelings of transcendence, of feeling part of something larger than ourselves, be it a sunrise or a natural scene or animals or people or time or culture or any of the other ways that we find those connections. Even being part of a group is a kind of transcendence. And so maybe the hard-headed scientist would say, any kind of soul or spirit is really just an extrapolation. It's consciousness, it's emotion, and then we call it something else. We call it a soul. Or maybe there's a reality beyond the material, beyond the naturally perceivable. Religions would say there's a separate supernatural entity called the soul, apart from the physical body and the conscious mind. It opens up possibilities of an afterlife, of an out-of-body experience, going beyond a physical connection to feel part of the entire universe, or connected to others in some intangible, undetectable way. It even opens up the possibility of reincarnation, because if the soul can leave, the soul can go into something else, be it human or who knows what, depending on your system of thought. There's even the possibility, some religions argue, of reincarnation without any awareness of your past life. I'm not sure I get the point. I mean, if the point is that you get more life, then you get more life. But if you're reincarnated and you have no memory of your past life, then you might as well be new. Does it really matter that that soul material was something old? Doesn't make sense to me. But it's hard on some level, as hard-headed rationalists as we want to be, to accept that all we are is something physical. And yet the idea of soul may carry beyond what some of us think plausible. This is an ongoing debate, has been one in our movement in humanistic Judaism for 40, 50 years. Can a humanistic Jew be spiritual? Do we have a spirituality? And it ultimately comes down to, what do you mean by spirit? What do you mean by spirituality? Do you mean talking to the spirit world? Or do you mean uplifting the human spirit? Do you mean inspiration, which has the same root? We all need inspiration. And if your spirituality is inspiration, then this is a great home for you. What I wanted to do as the last stage of exploring this is to share some examples of poetry that I use at memorial services. Because memorial services are those moments when people are thinking in those terms. And some of these poems speak of a soul or a spirit and others don't, but I think all of them connect to that moment, describe that experience. Whether you call it a soul or a spirit or consciousness or mind or emotion, whatever you label it, the phenomenon of the human experience has its own resonance, whatever the vocabulary might be. This is called Earth Prayer by John Ruskin. There is religion in everything around us, a calm and holy religion in the unbreathing things in nature. It is a meek and blessed influence, stealing in, as it were, unaware upon the heart. It comes quickly and without excitement. It has no terror, no gloom. It does not rouse up the passions. It is untrammeled by creeds. It is written on the arched sky. It looks out from every star. It is on the sailing cloud and the invisible wind. It is among the hills and valleys of the earth, where the shrubless mountaintop pierces the thin atmosphere of eternal winter, or where the mighty forest fluctuates before the strong wind with its dark waves of green foliage. It is spread out like a legible language upon the broad face of an unsleeping ocean. It is the poetry of nature. It is that which uplifts the spirit within us and which opens to our imagination a world of spiritual beauty and holiness. So again, a religion without creeds, doesn't need churches, doesn't need clergy, nothing personal about me. It's part of nature. It's your connection to the rest of the world. And it has something religious about it for a romantic like John Ruskin. This is called Learning from Trees by Grace Butcher. If we could, like the trees, practice dying, do it every year just as something we do, like going on vacation or celebrating birthdays, it would become as easy a part of us as our hair or clothing. Someone would show us how to lie down and fade away as if in deepest meditation. And we would learn about the fine, dark emptiness, both knowing it and not knowing it, and coming back would be irrelevant. Whatever it is that the trees know, when they stand undone, surprisingly intricate, we need to know also, so we can allow that last thing to happen to us as if it were any ordinary thing. Leaves and lives falling away, the spirit complex, waiting in the fine darkness to learn which way it will go. This one is very seasonal, right? We're seeing the leaves fall, the trees intricate. We're seeing it as an example of the passage of time and saying goodbye, but also the possibility of future life. And notice here, this is one that's ambiguous. There is a spirit, it's wondering which way to go. Does that mean the good place or the bad place? Does it mean the next life? Does it mean whether there's anything at all, or that is simply the end? We don't have an answer in the poem, just like we don't have an answer in life. Immortality by author unknown. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awake in the morning's hush, I am the swift upflinging rush of quiet birds in curling flight. I am the soft starshine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry, I am not there. I did not die. This is not a personal immortality. This is a connection to the world. Carl Sagan would say we are the stuff of stars. Our natural elements become part of the world around us, and we live on in that way, if not in our consciousness. One of my all-time favorites, The Peace of Wild Things by Wendell Berry. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his water, and rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world and am free. What I love about this one, two things. One is that getting beyond the human, the animals who do not tax their lives, do not burden their lives with forethought of grief. Bad things will happen, but we can make our lives miserable waiting for the bad things that never happen. Maybe there's a way to feel part of that world and not worry about tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow every moment. You go and lie down where the wood drake rests in the water. You come into the peace of wild things. You rest in the grace of the world. That's transcendence, right? That's inspirational. It's uplifting the human spirit. It doesn't require a soul or a supernatural level. It's getting beyond yourself in a very moving way. Wild Geese by Mary Oliver. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clean blue air are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over announcing your place in the family of things. So all the burdens we put on ourselves, religion, culture, expectations, don't worry about it. Let's connect as people, that emotional tie. And interesting, she calls it the animal of your body, because for her, love is an animal thing. It's not just a human thing. It's a universal living thing. And the last, Now After Many Years by the Israeli poet Yehuda Amichai. Now, after many years of living, I begin to see that I rebelled only a little, and I do observe all the laws and the commandments. I observe the law of gravity, which is the law of the earth's attraction, with all my body and with all my might and with all my love. I observe the law of equilibrium and the law of the conservation of matter, my body versus my body, my soul versus my soul, my body versus my soul. I abhor a vacuum in my pain and in my joy. I follow the law of water seeking its own level. Past and future are cycled back to me. I rise and I raise with the law of the lever. I begin to understand, as I would with an old car, what makes it work. The action of pistons and brakes, reward and punishment, be fruitful and multiply, forget and remember, be bolts and springs, fast and slow, and the laws of history. Thus spake the years of my life unto the days of my life. Thus spake my soul to the parts of my body. This is a sermon in the synagogue. This is a eulogy for the dead. This is burial, and this is resurrection. Thus spake the man. Connection to past and present and future, looking back on your life and seeing the true lessons of your experience, seeing those traditional categories of reward and punishment and fruitful and multiply as laws of the human condition, and connecting to all of it with reason and emotion and science and everything else. This is a poem of humanity. It's a poem of the human experience, but also it's clearly a spiritual moment. He's inspired by this, and whether he calls it his soul, his emotion, his connections, or his personal exploration of what he meant in his life to others, that's all part of being human. There are many ways to answer the question of what happens after you die. Once, Madalyn Murray O'Hair, the famous atheist activist, was on a talk show, I think it was Donahue or something like that, and she was asked, well, if you don't believe in an afterlife, if you don't believe in a soul, then what happens after you die? And she responded, you rot. Now, on one level, that may be true, but maybe there are nicer, more uplifting answers that we could explore. You live on in the good deeds that you did that people remember. You live on in the positive attraction and attachment that people have to who you were. If you have children, you live on in their lives and their memories and their stories. You live on in your impact in society. It could be a ripple in the water, it could have been a tidal wave, but that is part of who you are too. Your molecules live on in the natural world. There's all kinds of ways to feel part of something larger than yourself. Of course, the question of the soul may turn on that question, but do I live on? My consciousness, my sense of self, does that mean I have to picture a world without me in it? Maybe so. But that's why we have to do our best in the time that we have. If we don't know if our consciousness lives on, and maybe it doesn't, just in case, this is all there is, then we need to live this life as well, as meaningful, as deeply as possible. One of my favorite sayings I first heard from one of my colleagues, Rabbi Greg Epstein. He wrote in his first book, humanists believe in life before death. If you want our approach to soulful spiritual living, that's it. Let's live life before death. Well, I hope you enjoyed this exploration of what it can mean and what it does mean to be human, to find inspiration, whatever you call it, soul, spirit, or simply uplift in the world. Our closing song will be back in our original service. And to wrap up our service, we have a wonderful Oneg Shabbat waiting for us here. If you are online, thank you for joining us, but we cannot yet send you cookies through the Zoom, so you'll have to self-actualize your Oneg after the service. And our last song is simply wishing each other peace. Again, a wonderful statement of transcendence and connection to each other. It's called Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. If you know the song, please do join me. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Hevenu Shalom Aleichem. Eveinu shalom aleichem. Eveinu shalom, shalom, shalom aleichem. Shalom, shalom, shalom aleichem. And so now I wish you all Shabbat Shalom. Please wish Shabbat Shalom to the people sitting near you. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. The cookies await. Thanks for everyone joining us online as well. And wish you all Shabbat Shalom too.